All projects start with good plans. This was drawn in SketchUp. This is the soapstone. It's 13 inches by 18 inches by 1 1/8 inches thick. Frame consisting of 6 parts or 3 pieces. 2 ends or the handles. 2 sides. And 2 support pieces. We're going to start by cutting the box joints. This is the jig that was created. There's a little white piece there is a stop block that has the same width as the data. We'll start with one of the side pieces. Stand it up on the end, up against the stop block. Push the other block. The white one that's to the left of it, that's for squaring the block to make sure it's standing vertical. Slide the block through the dado blade, create your first slot. Lift the board up off, do not drag it through, lift it off, place it on top of the spot block where you just cut your last dado, push the other stop block up against it, and run through again. Run through this process until you complete the width of the board. Now we're completing the end pieces. Now we're going to do the sides. With the sides, we have to offset everything by the same width as the dado blade. So you put a stick up against the guide there, hold it there, run the blade through, or push the stock through the blade, and you'll create an offsetted step. Lift the pieces out, remove the stick, and just push the other board up against the notch again, and square it up. And continue that process until you're all done with all 4 ends of those 2 sides. Okay, one of the boards is 3/4 of an inch thick and the other board was 1 inch thick. All the slots we just made for the boards that were 3/4 inch thick. Now I'm going to raise the blade up to cut that 1 inch deep slot on the end pieces. And then repeat the same process that I did before, just running the boards through again. Now we'll demonstrate how tightly these joints fit. This is an extremely strong joint, and it's very nice looking when it's put together. These are just a little bit tighter than I normally like to do, but they'll work. Got to kind of squeeze them together there. The next thing we do is we cut the dado in the sides that the support fits into. So I've already got the fence set for the proper depth from the bottom up. Now I'm working on how deep to cut the hole. So I make one pass that I know is short, and then I measure it. determine how much further I have to go. Make an adjustment to make it just a little bit deeper, and then proceed with the cutting. You got to do that on 2 of the side pieces. Okay, the next thing we're going to do is we're going to cut the dado or leave a tongue on the support boards to fit into the side pieces. The next step is to rough cut the arches on the sides and ends with a bandsaw. I created this template to draw the arches on the sides and the ends. So first of all, you lay the piece in there, just flip the board over, draw the arch in there. And if you notice, I just have the arch on one end. So I put the piece down there, draw it out. I flip the piece over and draw it again on the other side so that I get exactly the same arch on both ends of the board. So I do that for all 4 pieces. Now with that pattern we drew on there, take it over the bandsaw and cut the arches out of it. You want to be short of the line so that the router bit, when we go to the templates again on the router, it will cut it off to exactly the way the pattern was laid out. So we cut just short of the line here. Do that on all 4 pieces. Okay, now we come back over to the router again and use the template that I created, and I got a template bit in the router, and then we'll use that. That will follow the template, the wood template that I built. The guide will follow along the plywood and cut the exact shape that I had laid out with the template. Notice again, I do one end. Once I get done with that one end, I'll flip it over and do the other end. So I get the exact same cut on both ends, the same radiuses. Next thing we'll do is swap out the template cutting bit for a radius bit. I'll first use a 3/8 inch radius bit and use that for cutting the undersides where under the end boards where the handles is, so it's a nice smooth radius for the hands. And I'll use a 1/16 inch radius bit for everything else, just to kind of take the edge off of it. Okay, now we get into glue up all the pieces. I've dry fitted everything, make sure everything fit together, and it did. I've taken and put in some tape in around all the box joints on the inside edge so that when I get glue that squeezes out as a result of the joints being pushed together, it won't be all over the wood. I can wipe it off the tape rather than trying to get it off the wood and the pores in the wood. So I go through and I'm using some Type Bond 3 here to try to get a longer dry time, because they got a lot of parts to glue up and a lot of stuff to fit together. Here I'm inserting a piece of plywood that's cut square to hold the frame square as I'm gluing it up. Okay, and here's the final product, covered with linseed oil and lacquer. You use this by heating or cooling it in the oven or the freezer, and then use the serving tray to help keep things warm or cool.